You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Friday show with this week's grain market update. And as always, we're joined by K-State grain economist Dan O'Brien. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Shelby.
Dan, beforehand, you're talking about how market prices are hitting lows, especially for corn and wheat.
Well, I think on the minds of Kansas farmers who harvested their crops this year, and if they're holding their crops, they're wondering about whether we're at harvest lows. And of course, for corn, we've been we've traded down into the 460, 470, 470, 480 area thereabouts on uh, Thursday of this week, the 30th, yesterday, basically, 461 and three quarters was the price that we traded down to, and the March contract 486 and a quarter and three quarters for corn for the close. So what's happening both in the corn contracts with those prices and in wheat, again with wheat closing yesterday 643 and a quarter for the D's contract, and March at 643. We've entered now into the delivery periods for those contracts. So it would be a great time to actually have harvest lows. And when you look at the futures, the traders' positions, again, and there generally are commercial traders, again, elevators, physical users, those that lend liquidity to the contract. That would be the more speculative types, more speculative traders, managed money, we call them politely, and then also index traders. So you look at folks like that, and they've had short positions, particularly for corn, for a fair amount of time now. And I looked at some of those numbers. They've built up quantity of short positions, sell positions on them, and are at the point now where we've had lows here. We're going to be closing out of those contracts, and with so many people having long positions, having short positions, they have to buy their way back out. So that tends to take prices up higher. So you've got that type of action coming on, and raises the question of whether this will lead to a change in market direction. Again, do we go sideways? Do we go higher from this? Are any run ups that we see temporary, just as, and people short covering, as they call those positions? Again, our farmer audience is very familiar with that terminology. So those are possibilities. The so when I in my thinking, I think we have that in hand. We do have a USDA report coming up a week from Friday. It would be on the uh, December the 8th of again a week from today, basically. So chance for new information to come in, and we have had low prices start to spur some buying action in the futures market. So we've seen that for corn, for wheat, and have had a pretty good run also for soybeans of late also. So you have some things happening. Again, more export action for corn really than for other commodities. And also I would add in the low prices for corn have been may have allowed ethanol plants to still may operate at a profit, at least as I've calculated numbers in the last for the month of November so far. So low prices have tended to cure low prices, have brought on demand both domestically and with foreign buyers seeing these as buying opportunities. And again, we just have farmers at a crucial stage. We'll be entering December. Some will be making decisions about selling now or holding till past the first of the year for tax purposes. And again, just a crucial time. So I guess I think what happens from today on in through that next USDA report bears watching. It's crucial time in the market, and very likely that we could see something moving to the higher side. I would say, since we talked about wheat futures had traded down. The March contract, now paying attention to March instead of December, March had traded down to basically $6 within the last week or so. Has traded back up to about 6.43. So that's a 40-cent gain off of recent lows. At least get garners attention as to where the markets might be going, and that's before we start looking at things happening overseas. Russia rattling their saber about holding back on sales and all sorts of things coming in. So you have all that happening. So I think it's quite a time, and it's an important time for decision makers, for especially for that are holding any old crop grain, with regard to uh, their hopes that we'd be seeing lows in the market and moving at least sideways to higher from here on out. If you'd like, I could talk about the cash markets also, Shelby.
Go for it, Dan.
Okay, sounds good. So the low side, the downside of what we've just been talking about is that again, cash corn prices across the state are at or below five, well, below $5 in almost all locations. You even have Southwest Kansas closing yesterday. The highest price that I could see listed on the market news services was 4.98. Again, breaking below $5. So that's a big thing. Interesting. New crop prices in that same area. There is a new crop price 5.22. That's out into October, November. So you still have that. But in most other places, we're seeing cash prices in I guess I call it the eastern 2/3, middle and central and eastern Kansas, more like 457, 463, 477, 458. So again, anybody that is holding old crop grain is hoping for something markedly higher than that to reward them for storage. Grain sorghum bids, as we've been talking all along, you still see in key export areas a premium of grain sorghum prices to cash corn, and you see most of those. And again, the Salina and Hutchinson, the strongest premiums, but also some stronger ssorghum prices in the Topeka area. Um, Soybean prices, we have seen with some strength here of late for instance, in the Salina area, pardon me, Topeka area, over $13 for cash soybeans. Most other areas pretty strong. You're seeing especially Salina 1293, 1308, Topeka 1318 in Hutchinson. Again, just like Topeka, really really strong. And the others, the uh, out to the west, we're 1238, 1258 thereabouts, or weaker. Wheat prices, again, with this recent run up that we had, particularly on Thursdays, a bit stronger market than we had seen the last couple of days. You're seeing cash prices now in most areas. Again, Salina, Topeka, Hutchinson area is back over $6, and still 563 is the top. In the Colby area, Garden City 583, 593 in Columbus. So just a continuation of the situation with wheat, where we with our international situation leading to an over temporary oversupply from Russia coming in Russia and Ukraine, and with their trade coming in and still being a burden on U.S. markets, even in the face of tight international supplies. And I would say too, when you talk about the wheat prices for wheat out west, it's really interesting to see off of our Ag Manager website the trends for wheat basis levels in the western third of the state, where we've gone below as much as it looks like, along the lines of about about 50, 60 cents below where our typical basis levels are now at this time of year, and it have dove sharply below that, and just aren't showing a lot of strength. But in other areas, we've basically come down to historically what have been lows in the last 3 or 4 years and have stayed there, and that's pretty much the situation for corn. Uh, Basis levels can come down to where we've been in the past, and are just hanging out there now until we get further news for cash basis levels across the state, and still a bit of an uptrend in most areas for grain sorghum and soybeans, also just about like corn, coming down to historic lows. So it's quite the time. It's not an exciting up time in the market, but just a time that where we're sort of uh, biding our attention on the market, and waiting to see what might happen on the strong side to the upside. I would say you do have signals. Again, we're still looking at South America with their crop risk, so that narrative on the market hasn't changed. We're still uncertainty. You do see reports out of major market watching groups in Brazil talking about tangible 4 million metric tons, 10 million metric tons reduction in soybean production. So that's a big deal. Supports the soybean market, and if those areas stay dry, eventually gets to it starts to have an impact on corn as well. But again, if that's coming, the market's not paying attention to it yet.
And Dan, real quick, thinking internationally, next week you and Guy Allen are going to be joining Antonia Boyaca for a update from Ukraine and sharing a little bit of information from your aspect. And so, could you give our listeners just a quick preview of a few things you might be talking about?
Yeah, and that will happen on Wednesday at noon. It's a free webinar. Antonina will talk about European issues, particularly the Black Sea region, but really affects all of Europe for the grain markets. And Guy and I will follow up with a quick look at domestic markets, but also internationally. One thing that we've been looking at, that I think bears a lot of notice, is the dryness in the Panama Canal, and how that affects shipments of potential shipments of grain through that part of the out the U.S. Gulf to Asian markets. So that has a direct impact on exports there. It affects rail prices and transportation here in the U.S. So that's sure an issue. And then we'll have all that much more information available in terms of what our competitors and colleagues to the south in Argentina and Brazil have for their current crop conditions. So I guess stay tuned for that. That's at noon. Will be from 12 to 1:30. It's listed, but we'll be done probably sooner than that, unless questions take us there. And you can register for that off of our Ag Manager website, www.agmanager.info, and you can register for that, again, free of charge, anytime. And that meeting comes off at it would be on December the 6th, 12 to 1:30.
Dan, I appreciate you taking the time once again to join us and give us our grain market update.
Thank you very much, Shelby. I appreciate it.
That was K-State grain economist Dan O'Brien. That Ukraine update that we'll be joined by Dan and Guy Allen for is taking place December 6th on Wednesday from noon to 1:30. I will put a link in today's show notes on agtoday.net where you can get signed up for it for free. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more ahead.